Hi, Ethan. It's really good to see you back. It's been a couple of months since we've done a podcast episode. I think it's time we did one where we wrapped up our first season. I think we've had a fantastic season. I think we've covered an awful lot of ground. And I was just having a look at our most popular podcasters, student motivation and self-discipline, followed closely by the impact of AI on design. We've actually had some feedback from people. We've had some people leave quite long comments on our podcast, and somebody offered to talk about AI. And so what we should do is get in touch with them. I've been in touch with somebody in Dubai. He's the head of sustainability there, and he's willing to have a long chat about sustainability and how he thinks that's going to affect architecture. I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, Ethan, but I think we've done well.
Yeah, we did. We did. And shall we talk how we started a little bit?
Maybe people don't know how we started because it's almost a year since we started planning this.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about how we started. So we are both tutors and we met, actually, we know each other online and we actually met last year. When was that? January in Wellington. And we were walking on the beach and we got an idea of doing a podcast, sharing our idea with the world and possibly interview some experts. And we started our podcast in February and we record every week about 2 or 3 episodes every Tuesday night. And now we end up finishing over 40 episodes. Am I right?
Yep.
Over
So
40
there's 40
episodes.
episodes, and we've had quite a lot of different things. We've talked about the role of construction manager. We've talked about student motivation. We've talked about humor and architecture. We've covered a lot of different things. And I'm thinking that when we started, we just spoke about what we knew.
Yeah.
And I think it's been really useful to interview people to make sure that what we're teaching in our colleges is really what people are recognizing as being the most important things long term. When we interviewed Terry Boone, was one of our early ones,
Yes.
and it has qualities improved. I've learned some new techniques. I'm using new software to analyze our podcasts and to take out the dead air and to take out all the filler words that we put in. So I think we've learned quite a lot over that time. I think we've learned from the people we've interviewed. And I also think we've learned from, certainly I have learned about the technology that we're using.
Definitely. And that's how we improve over time. And what will happen next year? What's your plan for next year?
I got more than one plan, but the plan for the podcast next year is to interview more people, to start reaching out to people that have commented on our podcast and start saying, we'd like to interview you. Reaching out to people that are heavily involved in building information modeling, for example, and interview them about the positives and the disadvantages of building information modeling. So there's a lot I think we can do in that area. So that would be my plan, is to try to touch base with people. And if people are listening today and they would like to get in touch with us and be interviewed, or they think they've got something to share, we'd love to talk to people.
Yeah. Another thing this year, the most performing podcast is for the student motivations. So what do you
Yeah.
think about talking to our peers, tutors from all over the world? Maybe they want to share about that also, for possibly from in New Zealand or maybe other part of the world.
Love to talk to
What do you
them.
think? Yeah.
Of course, in Wellington, we're going to be in Christchurch next week together. You and I, we're going to be with some of the other tutors. I'm not sure whether those other tutors have got much to share that we haven't already covered between the you and I. And that's why I like to
Yeah.
interview people outside the college so that we
Hmm.
get the industry telling us what's going on. I
Yeah.
think it's really important that we don't be too insular with staying inside our colleges, that we actually reach out and see, what is the world doing? What is the world requiring? We are creating students for a purpose, and the purpose is to go and work in the industry. And we need to know that we're doing what the industry needs.
Yeah. That's our plan for next year. And what do you want to say for to the audience now?
We can't do this without the audience. It's really, really lovely to get the feedback from the audience, to have people communicate or to comment on our podcasts and to send us their thoughts about what we've covered. I've had a couple of really long conversations with people that have responded on YouTube with the podcast. So keep your eye open. We're looking to make it better. We want to interview more people. We still have lots of people that we can reach out to. I know it's tempting not to go overseas and find out what people are doing overseas because maybe their building codes are different. But I also think that we can learn a lot from people overseas. For example, a couple of years ago, I was talking to somebody in Staten Island in New York, and he was telling me that the code over there has changed to require 2 inches of exterior insulation on top of the studs. And I can see that happening here as well, where we're not insulating our walls to a high enough standard without going to 140 stud. And then we've changed to that very heavy roof insulation, but we've still got the thermal bridging with the studs. The idea of doing the exterior insulation is to try and avoid some of that thermal bridging. So quite often, I think being able to talk to people like that, see what's going on overseas, what's happening, particularly if we look at densification, what do people do? What do they find? What's the result of it? We could learn a lot from those and start to share that with people here.
Right. So we have to, now I'm going to say goodbye to our audience or listeners, and thank you so much, and see you next year.
Yeah, we're planning. So Ethan and I are planning our next year's episodes already. So keep listening. I think in February we'll start again. It is a lot of work to do, but we really enjoy it, and I really enjoy talking to you. And I got to say thank you very much, Ethan. You've been wonderful to deal with. It's always been a pleasure every week to get together with you and talk about what we love. And if I remember rightly, it was your idea.
Don't mention it.
So
All
thank you
right.
very much, Ethan. And thank you
Thank
to the
you.
audience. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.